Hi, folks. So my name is Wayne O'Connor. I'm from Sligo Gaming Society, and we're having just another one of our little kind of chats about different aspects of the hobby with some of our kind of members from the club. And tonight we're going to be kind of focusing on kind of wargaming and painting, and I suppose creating terrain and whatever else we managed to touch on over the next hour or so. So without further ado, I will just maybe go around to the people I have and maybe just do a little quick intro, guys. Just who you are. Maybe your favorite game or something like that. So I'm going to shoot over your first up there, Mr. O'Keefe. So maybe you might just introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Wayne as well. Yeah, I've been painting for must be nearly 30 years now. But there would have been a big 10, 15-year gap in that. So I kind of started off probably painting Hero Quest, and then getting into likes of Warhammer. But mostly, it wouldn't be war games that I'd be painting. It's essentially miniatures from board games. So any board game that I might like it has minis, I'll paint up the minis, or at least paint half them, and then not go near the board game again. But
yeah,
so, but yeah, that's me.
Okay, cool. Then I'll go over to next is Mr. Lally there, Jake. I want to say hello.
So yeah, I'm Jake. I've been only painting for a couple of years now. After I remember buying a box of Warhammer Fantasy years and years ago from my dad with my dad, and we went through and we painted up the models on the sprue, and we never actually built them. And then we kind of fell off that, and then a couple of years later I got into 40k, and then fell off that as well. And then about 10 years later I got back into 40k, and I've kind of just been at it now for the last couple of years. And I have a few bits of Age of Sigmar, not too much any other games, but I really liked it. I'd like to get into anything. I love painting them. I love playing them whenever I get the chance to.
Cool. We'll shoot down to Ross.
Okay, hello, my name's Ross. I've been playing painting miniatures for about 32 years. Favorite game currently, I'm not sure. It's either Kings of War or Age of Fantasy Regiments. I'm a big fan of rank and file fantasy settings. Not so much into the sci-fi. I have a bit of it, but the main love is with the fantasy. And in the hobby, I've done quite a lot. Previously worked for Games Workshop, so I've been quite prolific in the hobby. And also started a YouTube channel as well, so yeah.
Deadly. And finally, Andy.
Yeah, hi, my name's Andy Hart. I've been painting for, and this is showing my age, 43 years. And I started off with Napoleonic wargaming. And then when Citadel, well, Games Workshop was Citadel, I got into fantasy. Never really got into 40k until quite recently, but have continued very much in all kinds of wargaming and tabletop games. So
Deadly. Okay, so the plan is we're going to do a little screen share. Hopefully the tech will work for us, and I'm going to look at we're going to just have a look at some of the guys' models, and maybe they'll talk about how they built them and what sets they're from, etc. But I guess maybe the first question I might just put to Ollie is just what is it about wargaming and kind of our miniature painting that attracts you? What's the attraction here? I mean, is it the games themselves? Is it the actual process of painting? Is it creating terrain? Is that what the hook is? Is it just something something that it's relaxing to sit down and just pick up a mini and kind of come up with a color scheme and give it life? Anyone want to jump in on that? Maybe I'll go back to Wayne O'Keefe. That's okay.
Yeah, I suppose like recently enough, it would be because I'm into board games, and a lot of the board games I would have would be hex and counter war games. So there's no painting or terrain in them. But then the other type of games I'd be into would be like Blackstone Fortress and all these kind of Games Workshop games. And you open up the box, and then you just have a big lump of grey plastic or red plastic or blue plastic. And you have all this impressive artwork and impressive game, and then you just look down at the board, and it's just essentially grey, and you can't pick out any details. So I started off with that, just trying to make the game pieces more appealing, but actually more user-friendly as well. So that's kind of where that comes from. And then there's that's my current kind of draw for painting. Previously it would have been for armies or maybe just for relaxing, but now it's mostly board games.
What about you, Ross? Where are you coming from in terms of what is it about this hobby that attracts you?
I don't think there's one singular thing. but I do love the visual spectacle of having two painted armies fighting off each other on fully painted terrain. And so it started with just that's my end goal of get them painted so they look good. And then I've started making terrain. It's like, oh, actually, this is a new aspect of the hobby I've never done before. I really enjoy making terrain. It's a way to explore creativity, go, okay, what area are they fighting over? And how can I theme this terrain to be with my armies that I've got? And painting itself is quite relaxing. After a hard day at work, come home, about 3 or 4 hours sat just painting, and you get an end result, go, oh, look, I've accomplished something, I've made this. And when you put them all down and stand back, and you can see not just the progress you've made, but also how your skills have got better as you've gone along. You can get, like, say, your first model you've ever painted, and then get a most recent one, and you can match them side by side. And you go, wow, look at that! I've really progressed.
Yeah,
and it's sort of a combination of it's relaxing and it's skillful. It's nice to have that sort of it's almost meditative, I suppose, really, isn't it? You're looking at something so long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can definitely get into a flow state.
Yeah,
and hours and just gone.
So yeah, go on.
Because I've looking at some of my armies, I've got what's called horde armies, which is like units of, say, 14 models or units of 60 models. So it's big units. And when you're painting 60 of the models that are quite similar, you get in the zone. It's like they're pretty much the same. And you're like going, same color, same color, same color. It's very cathartic having that.
What about yourself, Andy? What's 43 years? I was at. Sorry, did I say that?
Yeah, no. I think it's partly, I suppose, I started with the historical, and I've always been fascinated with history as a kid, and I love the history lessons and stuff like that. But then a lot of it was through the interest in the military aspect and stuff like that, and it's just really how colourful some of the armies were, and as much as anything, and also, if you like, in the hobby, there's quite a communal aspect of getting a game together. So, some of the pictures you'll see later probably will be of me and Ross playing, and we decided, okay, we're going to do this, and we sort of put something together, and it's really, there's quite a kind of social aspect to the game as well. I know that the image is always sort of sitting in the sort of back cupboard, sort of painting minis and stuff like that, but actually there's a much more kind of social aspect to it, which is meeting up, sort of planning a game, planning campaigns even, and just sort of working together as a group on a particular kind of project. And the fun of it is when it all comes together and you get it on the table, and there's the terrain and the figures and stuff like that, and it's just really pleasurable to play with guys and girls who really want to just be in that space. And that's half the fun of it, I suppose. I paint to play. So if I've got a game planned, I'll paint extremely quickly. If I haven't got something planned, I'll play very slowly. So I find there's a real social aspect to it.
And can I ask, I'm going to go to Jake in a second, but can I ask just what you, Annie, because you're like a lot into the historical stuff. So in your case, is there a lot of like research? Are you like trawling the internet, kind of going, what uniforms did they wear? What?
It's more on colors and other aspects of it and stuff like that, and making sure that the things look as historically accurate as possible. The figure manufacturers are really good nowadays of doing the research for you, but it's also just sort of, okay, so gray, but how can you make that gray interesting, and how can you make the models look really good on the table and stuff like that? So there is that kind of research aspect. There's reading the history. I read a lot of personal accounts as well, and you get a real sense of what they went through, and it's a kind of, maybe this will come up later on, but you kind of, although we're playing with figures, in some ways you do kind of, if it's historical, you are also appreciating what people went through. It's slightly different than painting fantasy, because fantasy you can just do what you want. But with this, you can't paint your Napoleonic figures pink unless some of them were pink, which they were. But it just doesn't sort of fit well. So it's an interesting aspect of the hobby where you're kind of restricted, but you want to make as good a job of the painting as you can.
Yeah.
While respecting what these guys went through.
Very good. And then I guess same question to you then, Jake. What is it that attracts you to this hobby, to painting, to wargaming?
Well, when I was a lot smaller, I remember being up in Blanchardstown up in Dublin, where the only games workshop in the country was there. And I think I must have just been walking by with my family and says, and just catching a glimpse of like the dioramas in the front window. I'd be like, oh, what's that? I'm like, and just being immediately drawn to it. It's just like, what's going on here, pretty much.
And you walk in the door and there's a guy like, hi.
Hi, it's just, yeah, and they scare the shit out of you, and you don't leave it alone. But yeah, no, and just kind of then going into the shop and just looking around and seeing all the different armies, and immediately being drawn to Tyranids, which are the bugs, the space bugs, pretty much. And it was just the warrior models, just the warrior models themselves. Just like I love them. I love the color of them. I love just the basic color that they have in the box. I says, I want that, and then buying a box of that, and then buying the paints that you need to do it, and then painting up to the best of your ability to kind of match that. And I know that's probably against a lot of other people, but I just wanted those models, to be mine, kind of.
Yeah,
very good.
I can relate to that, because actually my experience when I got into it was looking through the front window of the local model shop and seeing all the Napoleonic figures there and stuff like that. So. So something that really does resonate.
It's not even that, but like when I got back into Warhammer, I wasn't even a part of the Sligo Games Society. I bought a couple of models off eBay for whatever it was, and then I just painted them up. I bought the paints that I needed and I painted them up, and then I found out about the Games Society. So I guess I bought the models not even planning on playing with them, and then actually finding a community to play it with, I could actually use them then, and being super happy about it.
Very good, very good. Actually, like I said, I'm not a wargamer, but I remember I used to collect Prince August miniatures. Do you guys know the company on cover? They're still going, aren't they? Yeah. So I used to love building the whole mold and putting the metal in, doing all this stuff. So I had hundreds of those things lying around the place. Anyway, so that's cool. So what I might do now is we'll just I'll do a little screen share here. Hopefully nothing will explode on us, Jake, particularly in your place. And we'll just have a look at some of the minis. They're in no particular order, but I've tried to disperse them, so I'm not sure who I've got set up first. I'm just going to screen share, and hopefully we can work from here. So here we go. Okay, now.
That's mine.
Okay, yeah, you're the rabbit in the head. So yeah, what are we looking at here, Ross? What are these?
Those are my Mongolian heavy Lancer cavalry. They're by Fireforge Games, who make really nice historical miniatures. They've started doing a few fantasy models now as well, but it's mainly sort of quite human-centric fantasy. There's not much in, say, like elves and dwarves. They've done a few undead, but there's nothing much. But these are historical miniatures. These are interesting because they're made out of resin, apart from the lances are plastic. And the resin is absolutely horrible. They were an absolute pain. These people, these models, they actually sat in a box, half painted for 3 months, I think. So I started painting them for, I'm going to get these done. And I was so disheartened because of how bad the resin was. I put them in a box and was like, get away from me. I don't want to see you. No, go away.
Can I ask, as the outsider, in what way? Like, it doesn't take the paint well, or
no? It's the detail. If you look at the horse's face, for example, where the reins are, the detail. It's not crisp. It's very soft detail. So it was hard to pick out individual components of the model. It was hard to distinguish certain elements. The faces as well. If you look at the faces, the detail there. It's not that crisp. The swords, they're a bit bent. I tried to, because with resin you can do certain tricks to make them a bit harder. I tried that and it didn't work. They're still a bit not the best. So anyhow, they sat in a box for 3 months. That's them there ranked up. Also, that's a great example. You can see the banner bearer, he has a thumb missing. The banner bearer has no thumb who's holding that standard.
You just got it chopped off.
Yeah.
Backstory. It's got a backstory.
He's so great. He can hold a banner with his 4 fingers. The guy's a legend. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's hard to work with, though. Yeah, but no, the Fireforge stuff, the plastics are great. The resin is absolutely atrocious. It's like, oh my god.
You can say that for a lot of resin stuff, though, as well. It's not just this company. Resin's awful, right?
This in my 32 years of miniature gaming, this is the worst resin kit I've ever experienced. I've actually contacted companies saying, look, are you going to make these guys into plastic? I want more of these models because the aesthetics are great. I love the barding. I love the armor they've gone for. Shields, they're gorgeous, but it's just the resin is so bad.
You wouldn't
So I
know.
asked him. Sorry?
They look great. You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was going. That's the next point. This is the power of Army Painter Wash.
Oh,
Army Painter Wash will hide a multitude of sins. I mean, a lot of the detail there you can see is just because of the wash. The wash goes in there and it just does your instant shading, and it makes even a mediocre paint job and a bad model look great.
So exactly what is that like for anyone who's watching who doesn't
It's
know?
I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
No, go on, dear. You got it.
It's like an ink basically. It allows you to be able to paint one color underneath, and then if you wash it or effectively put a coating of the army painter, it naturally settles out and gives you that kind of gradation of color and gets into all the details, gives you that much more kind of comic kind of look.
And is that sort of a standard sort of technique that a lot of miniature painters would use then to do that?
It's become more so now, but it mainly comes from historical gaming, because before they'd do something called the dip, which they'd put it in like it was like a do you
pot,
get like wood
like
wood,
a paint pot.
Yeah.
But before then it was wood stainer. It was actually wood stainer being watered down, and they'd use that and they'd put it with tongs, and they'd just shape the model, get all the ink, the stainer off, leave it. And Army Painter tweaked on, hey, this is a great idea. We should paint this and sell it to people. And that's what I've done with the little pots of wash. It's great stuff. But the annoying thing is, I've actually got 22 more models of those Mongolians to paint. It's like, oh no. But
that is the problem with historical. You got a lot of models.
No, but it shows that even a bad model, if you stick at it, if you persevere, you'll get results that are really good at the end. Because I'm actually really impressed with how they've come out. But like I say, painting them, they sat in a box for 3 months. And in that 3-month period, it was so disheartening. I didn't touch a paintbrush. I was like, no, this is, oh no, I'm just going to have a sit down.
Entirely.
Well, they look,
I sit down, have a cry.
Yeah, they look pretty neat now, to be honest. Okay,
That's the thing I'm trying to say.
I'm going to jump back here and just do the share again. I'm probably going to just jump between the share and the thing just to see how we get on. So I'll jump on to the next person here. Who is this?
This
is a
wow.
This is
really bit of a wow one. Yeah, this is very nice.
So this is the what the heck's it called? The Mind Flayer Sphinx or something like that from Age of Sigmar Warcry or Warhammer Age of Sigmar Warcry, and it's like an add-on. It's like a kind of like an event beast that you can, instead of fighting another player, you can go on this quest to beat this beast and pretty much tame it for your next match, pretty much. So you can then take this along with your band of barbarians and pretty much just play with and add this as an ally, pretty much.
Wow, it's lovely, really nice.
Really nice.
Can I just ask, like, in terms of like your tools and stuff that you'd use? There's obviously really what kind of brush size or brush range are you looking at?
So
do you need to buy specific brushes? Is there specific companies that you look for? No.
I actually, this is one thing, I should probably pick up some very nice brushes, because I've been using just the basic brushes from Eason's and stuff like that, or buying the cheapest pair from Amazon and getting 10 brushes and using them. But with this one, I actually used a little bit of airbrush just to put the main colors down. So I painted them a dark blue, and then I used the white to kind of blend it through. But then everything else is just all basic brushes. And as with what Ross was saying, or with the Army Painter shades as well, using shades on the armor to darken them down and then brighten them up again. So if you go back one, you can see that it's a goldish. I use gold, and then I use a brown wash to darken it down to make it look a bit more kind of coppery looking. And then I used a dry brush, which is just pretty much getting a brush and taking nearly all the paint off, and then rubbing it over the details on the armor. So then you get that kind of silvery look. But this is another kind of thing. I saw when they released this, I was like, oh my god, look at this, it's so cool. And then bought one, and then painted it up, trying to make it look pretty.
Really nice.
And then, even then, you putting that picture up, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, look at all the mistakes I've made
That's a common artist thing. Take it from me.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the base and I'm like, oh, that base is so bare. I should probably do more of this. Make it darken it down, make it look more kind of.
I think that's a common creative thing. You put something out there, it's amazing. But like, you're always not going to see the image. You're going to see that one little brush stroke you should have put in. Absolutely. I'm gonna just jump on to the next one here. Who is this? This is Andy, I think.
Oh yeah, this is the game I was talking about with me and Ross. This is this is a Brotherhood army for Kings of War. And again, this was when myself and Ross have been talking about this for a long time. And we just set a date, and I painted over, I think, nearly 250 figures in about 4 weeks. And now this is using, but the good thing is this is using contrast paint, which is the Games Workshop latest addition to their paint range, and it is actually very good. And I think the picture does a lot better justice to the figures than they really should. But I got away with it because if you do lots of nice banners and stuff like that, it really adds to the kind of whole kind of theme of the army and stuff like that. But it was enjoyable, but it was a hell of a job.
And these banners, what are they made from? Are they part of the model, or these is something you add on yourself later?
No, I added those on myself. They're all historical, but they're also, I actually designed them in paint on Windows, and basically then just printed them out and stuff.
Okay.
But,
did you use cloth, Andy?
No, it's a special kind of paper. So it doesn't go through a printer, but you have to kind of create you have to almost stick it to another piece of a paper that will go through the printer, and then you can actually print on it and stuff like that. But it's a particular type of paper.
So I think
it's not like decal paper at all, is it? No.
No. It's I don't know what it is actually, but I just found a load of it, and it's really useful when you do it. It's a long time since I did it, but this was a good example. And what it does is, because of the nature of the paper, it actually folds like fabric, and it's very nice when it comes together. I mean, you can get away with a lot of things if you put nice banners on an army. So it's just sort of that collective look. And so this was a really good game. This was our first game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This is I think this is at one of the games nights or something. I can tell by the chairs. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
no.
And this, because mass battles, you don't need a lot of terrain, just talking about terrain and stuff like that. So there's just one little hill over here. There's another building somewhere and a couple of trees and stuff like that, and that's about all you need. So
did we use your church you've got, like sort of Spanish church? I think that was, we used this one. Yeah. It's a really nice bit to end that.
So I think I have something else here, but I think it might be completely different genre here. No, we still have it. So
no,
this is from the same game.
Yeah, so you've got a church there and stuff like that. But this is where my knights are basically crushing his wing, and literally just swang around and
yeah.
Oh,
get to dig in.
But that's part of the fun. It's very cool.
Very cool. Okay. Oh yes.
Oh, no.
Yes. Over here.
Oh yes.
So I think this is Mr. O'Keefe.
Yeah, that's it. Like the Gale Force 9 brought out the new Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core board game, and I've been following it for ages, and huge Aliens fan. I love it.
Wayne, this has nothing to do with the old Alien versus Predator game, does it?
No, this is brand new. This out, I think, came out around Christmas time.
I had seen this actually just being released like recently, and they look really cool.
Yeah, no, it looks good. Like the game looks good, very like Space Hulk, I suppose, for Games Workshop kind of fan. But yeah, I just love the minis, because the minis I thought were very well done and look pretty like the real characters in the movies. But it's interesting with the last picture of all the models, and you're doing 250 in like 4 weeks. Like that's something I struggle at. So the amount of time you probably put in for like maybe 30, 40 models, I would have put into this, and it's something I struggle with painting is getting bogged down in the minutia, which is
trance.
Yeah, and that kind of keeps me away from the kind of the mass battle games, because I could spend bloody, like with this thing, I could spend maybe 3 hours, 4 hours just trying to get the highlights right on the clothes. And the mad thing is that you only notice it from looking at it from within a foot away. And you play a board game at 3 to 4 feet away. So I could probably save 80% of my time painting, and at 4 feet it would look exactly the same. You know?
But where's the fun in that?
Yeah, I know.
I'll
Stress
admit,
about all these details.
I do.
Like with this one, like because I'm so into aliens, like I was putting on aliens on my TV. I was pausing, freeze framing it, looking at the clothes. Like they Reebok made special shoes for Sigourney Weaver for the movie, which were like white and red as well. These kind of, so I had to go in and try and paint them up.
That's interesting because you know, as an artist, I would have music like, and it actually kind of feeds my mood. And I suppose, as you keep on saying, that the trance. Would you all be? Was that something you'd all do? Would you have like music on the background, or do you need a space away from everything? Is it? Can you work with the people walking through? I mean, how does it work? I'm just talking from my own point of view. I need to have a space. Is it the same?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's I throw in the movie, and even though I'm not watching the movie, it's in the background. Like, so for Aliens, I have the Aliens movie going on in the background, and I can hear, you know, Gorman going off and fucking Hudson and everything like that, and then I'm in the mood and I'm painting it, and then suddenly it's, you know, I've already gone through like 3 hours of the special edition or something like that, and I'm still stuck on her boots.
Yeah, I'll listen to audiobooks, mostly historical, and just have them playing in the background. But you actually, or you know, science fiction or fantasy or whatever. But yeah, it's just completely consuming. That you just you lose yourself.
I'd find that you can actually kind of, as long as you're not kind of, if you're watching something, that's fine. You can put on Netflix and put on a series and just put it on autoplay and just get your stuff done. And you don't really have to pay attention. You can drop the mini at any time and just kind of go away, do something, come back to it. And if you're watching something, listening to something to it like an audiobook, it's perfect, because it's, while you are concentrating on this mini in front of you, you can still listen to anything or have something on in the background, like just like that.
I'm the odd one here because having worked for Games Workshop, you have to paint in the store, and a lot of time there's people coming and going, asking questions. So I've learned after how many number of working for them to just be able to paint while people talk and go, yeah, sure, cool, and answer questions and have sort of two levels of concentration at the same time. Yeah. But I do prefer to be able to sat down in the kitchen painting, and my wife will watch something on TV, so have a bit of background noise that way.
Yeah. I'm going to just flick on here now. The time is flying here, actually, but I'm just going to flick on. I think I have another one from O'Keefe here. Yeah, here's one.
Oh, that's
really
so
like this.
More it is.
Oh, looks really nice.
And that's, I got an airbrush for pretty much for Christmas just before that, so I was trying out on this alien figure. Now I was hemming and hawing about it because, like, in the movie you have the kind of the very gloss black on the kind of the helmet area, but then there's certain parts of the movie where you have blue lighting and then red lighting and stuff. So I was trying to replicate that, but
no, it looks amazing.
Yeah,
and again,
so
from a board game aspect, when I'm playing the game and I am 4 feet away, if I'm just looking at just jet black minis, then I'm not seeing the details from the figures. So it's just.
And anyway, black is sort of an interest, and even in terms of art, like black is never black. There's always a hint of a local color going on underneath them. So it looks really, really neat, actually. I don't know who I've got next here. Who's this? This is Ross, I think. Is it Ross again?
Yeah, that's me again. Yeah, this is another example of models that went wrong. I don't know if it's going to show up, but when I used the Army Painter, I think it's plate metal spray. I'll show you this one if this comes up. I don't know if it shows, but when they're primed, they've gone a bit glossy. I don't know if it's showing the gloss, but anyway, it's gone a bit sort of pearlescence as the model. So I was like, oh, another one. Oh, not again. This has gone horrible. Right, how can I fix this? So I just persevered again, carried on, thought, right, okay, keep going. And I'm, again, really happy with the results. The difference of these ones is they're meant to be, well, these are Games Workshop figures that are meant to be on round bases, but I'm going to use them in Kings of War and Age of Fantasy Regiments, so square bases it is. And I honestly think they look better on square bases than they do on round bases, personally. But that's because I'm a big fan of rank and flank. Sorry?
They look more imposing.
And can I ask what do you use to, like, to decorate the bases here? This what is this stuff down here? Where would people get that?
That's again, as you can see the background, I'm a big fan of Army Painter range. That's Army Painter, I think it's called Step Grass. The texture is birdcage sand that I get from basically any pet shops. I use wood glue to glue it on and let it dry. Then I just do a series of like a dark brown first to the soil, and then just dry brush like various tans on top of that to pick out the edges, and then just in random clumps the bits of step grass.
Very cool. Can I? I'm just going to zoom on here just keep track of the time. I think O'Keefe, this is one of yours. In turn, do you guys like do terrain? Do you work on terrain, or is terrain like a different beast, or would you get the same thrill out of it in terms of painting?
I think it's a necessity, especially with skirmish games. The more there's less figures, more terrain, or on tabletop sort of battles, there's less terrain, more figures. So it kind of is almost a necessity depending on how much you are, which game you're picking. It depends on how much you have to do or don't do.
So O'Keefe, like this base on this guy, this is, sorry, I'll let you, what are we looking at here? This Elder.
Yeah, that's from Elder Scrolls, the new Elder Scrolls game. And I bought it, it was looking great, and I made the model up. That model was an absolute nightmare to make up. I couldn't get over it. Like, I think it was like, it consists of like 13 or 14 pieces.
Oh Jesus.
And like that's a 32 mil model. Like it was
really
so,
wow,
over engineered, or maybe it was under engineered or something. I don't know, but I put it together and I painted it up. I was happy with it, and then I just didn't fall in love with the game, so I ended up selling it, and with that model, and now I'm kind of half regretting it because it's one of my favorite minis.
Is the base, is that part of the model, or did you?
Yeah, no, that was just some PVA glue and some loose stones, and let the PVA glue dry, and then it was just dry brushing white and browns and washes just to try and make some sort of snow effect.
Okay.
That shield's fantastic.
I think
no, really nice paint job.
I think these are you again, okay?
That's Blackstone Fortress. Yeah. There's a great YouTube channel, Midwinter Minis.
Yes, great channel.
Yeah, and he did a speed painting series on Blackstone Fortress, and that's kind of what got me back into painting. Like I say, I've painted for about 30 years, but it's not. It's been like blocks of like 3 years here and there, like, and I painted Imperial Assault, and after that, I didn't do anything. And then I seen Blackstone Fortress, so I bought the Army Painter complete paint set, ridiculous money, and then Blackstone Fortress, and then just followed his tutorials. But the miniatures are great. Games Workshop minis are fantastic.
Say what you want about them.
No, they're very
Their
good.
minis are good.
Yeah.
Can I ask then? I'm just going to zoom on here. That's another one, I think, from yours, from the same set. I really like this guy. He's really cool.
Yeah, he'd be the main. He's the main kind of character in the game. And you can see there, I went a different route with the bases there. They're just clear acrylic.
Yeah.
So again, it being a board game, those models can stand on counters and stuff like that. So the idea was that you could
see what's underneath them. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
It's good even in tabletop, because you don't need to change the base, or it doesn't look out of place with whatever terrain you put it on as well. So using clear acrylic discs is really good.
I'm just going to go on to the next one, but I have a question actually, just because I hear people talking. I think this is one of yours, Andy. Just come to you in a second on this one. Is there any particular? I'm hearing people saying Games Workshop obviously all the time, but is there any particular company that you really, really love their work, that it's kind of like, okay, if they're making this particular line of minis, I'm on board. I'm going to see what they got. Is there anyone out there? A fave company, I suppose the company really, is there a fave company for miniature building?
But there's one that stands out to me, and I haven't actually bought a mini from them yet, and I really want to. Like, I'd normally buy the board games, and then paint the minis. But the one company where I just want to buy the minis from is they're called Northumberland Tin Soldier.
Oh, are they the little, like, they're like English fantasy kind of things?
Yeah, they do a lot of things, but they do a range called Time Robbers. And they're basically some might say they look like the guys from Time Bandits, the movie, but who knows? But their range of time robbers, they look absolutely unbelievable. So I'd be meaning to pick them up. But I think Games Workshop probably are the gold standard. Them or Corvus Belli with Infinity.
Yeah.
Oh, what about you, Andy? Any particular company that you kind of?
It depends on the periods. Different companies have different figures and do well, particularly in the historical, do better different periods. So the problem is they're using, unlike Games Workshop, they don't have in-house designers. So they pick different designers. I think Empress Miniatures is probably the most consistent in the quality of their miniatures, very good casting and very good historical figurines and stuff like that. But they only use a couple of sculptors. So they're very good in their consistency. Other companies do particularly good lines in different periods, but you'd sort of pick and choose in general. So they're
yeah, sorry. Ross, you some.
The one company that I've got a lot of currently is what's it now? North Star Miniatures, I think it is.
Frostgrave.
It's not just Frostgrave, they're doing Frostgrave and they're doing is it Oathmark? They're sort of very fantasy but quite realistic fantasy miniature lines, and they're gorgeous. I've got loads of their gnolls, which are like like men type things. They've just brought some undead, and they've got a really strong, very Harryhausen sort of the Jason the Argonauts feel to them. And she's like, okay, I'm trying to resist them. It's quite hard to resist them. I've got loads of the elves. The elves are gorgeous. Just they're so nice because
as they should be.
Yeah, as they should be. Yeah, but they're very sort of Tolkien-esque elves. What you think elves should be like. And yeah, I think that they're one to watch out for. But yeah, Games Workshop are the gold standard. Pretty much they are the benchmark.
Would you,
for good and bad?
For good and bad. Where are you in turn? Like Jake, would you agree?
I'd be looking at all these websites and seeing all these amazing looking games. But the problem with it is that I can't really find myself to buy just one squad of this or one squad from that company, and I usually just end up sticking with Warhammer. But there's so many like games that just have amazing stuff. Like I've actually just bought the Marvel Crisis Protocol core set, which comes with Spider-Man and Iron Man, Captain America, and all that. And that's just a much smaller kind of mini game, where you've like maybe 5 guys on the board, and then your opponent has 5 on their side, and it's just you fight them off pretty much, and you do objectives, but it's much smaller than what we saw there with like Andy and Ross's like big battlefield. It's more just like a single street in New York, more like
skirmish kind of a thing.
Yeah, much more skirmish game. And then there's just so many. There's like one-off like miniatures as well that companies Kickstarter on, where we want to make these miniatures, so do you want to back us?
Is that the kind of stuff you see in like Forbidden Planet, these kind of once-off sculpts, or is that
they're more like statues, but you can I know that you can just buy like busts of fantasy heroes and things like that and just paint them off. Like Andy sells them in his shop. And like I'd love to just paint one up. Absolutely, just for the fun of it. It's no purpose other than to look nice and look pretty.
Speaking of Andy, I will just go back to what we have here, because I think this is one of yours, Andy. Is that right?
Yeah, that's Battlefleet Gothic, another Games Workshop. But these are actually printed on 3D printer.
Wow, very good.
Really, they look amazing.
Yeah, and it's surprising what you can find. They stopped supporting Battlefleet Gothic some years ago, and it's now sort of got a bit of a cult following, as these things.
It's more of a video game now.
Yeah, and these are all 3D printed up, and it didn't take that long, and they're really nice to paint as well. So again, unfortunately it's a pre-COVID project with a couple of the lads from the club, but we'll get.
What's your club from the Sligo game study, or
Sligo,
the Sligo games?
I didn't know there were lads playing Battlefield. I have a Chaos fleet, pretty big Chaos fleet as well, and
I've got 2 fleets.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
There was a few, and Neil had it.
Oh, he loves it as well. Yeah.
I'm just going to zoom on here just a bit, just because I'm aware of the time. I don't want to go too. I think this is one of yours again, Andy.
Yeah,
This bolt action.
yeah, it's bolt action. So it's Second World War.
I actually have minis of this game.
Yeah.
I like bolt action, don't I, Andy?
Great game.
Yeah. You don't give him artillery though. He played English, and both times he brought it down on his own troops.
It was epic. I was like, that's amazing amount of damage. Oh, it's my own guys. Oh. So yeah, sorry.
It's a fun game. Again, it's a kind of skirmish game, but sort of somewhere between sort of section size and platoon size. So it's very good in that respect. And you don't have to paint up a lot of minis to play, and it's very easy to get into.
There's a sci-fi game.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
They're class.
Yeah, the horses are really.
There's a science fiction game called Star Breach, and you can download the rules for free online. And the rules are basically bolt action, and it's a squad of 10 guys against 10 guys in the future. Yeah. And it's miniature agnostic.
They've also done this. They've also done a fantasy one as well, Warlords of Everyone. I've got a copy of the rules, not played, but it's the same thing, same rules, bolt action, just fantasy. But yeah, they're gorgeous.
So we're just jumping. I think we've got. I think it's back to you, Jake.
Yeah, this is me again.
There we go.
So this is actually one of the from the same group of miniatures that Ross was showing off with his Liberators. I think they are.
I don't know if
they just look cool, and it's kind of the same with this. I actually picked this up from Eason's from their like monthly kind of subscription service where you just get a mini in the you get a mini every week or whatever, and you paint it up, and you get like this. And this is just one of them that I happened to see and grab and paint it up.
Fairly epic.
Yeah,
a lot of detail.
Really nice.
You were saying, I mean, who was it just said the comment, like Games Workshop, the quality of the detail and everything, are they the gold standard, like in
pretty much,
even if you're not if you're not like for the fan, they are.
There's nothing that competes even close to in the historical range of quality that you get in Games Workshop.
The size of the company, the resources they have,
just
basically pay for probably the best sculptors.
And they kind of turned themselves around because they were
big time
in the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, when the previous CEO, he was dreadful. Was it Roundtree? I think his name was. He was just running the ground coming to the ground, and the new guy, he's just complete turned the company around. It's been an absolute watching it happen. It's been quite good to see it happen.
Yeah,
and it's good. Like a lot of people say, oh, like Games Workshop are like putting everybody out of business, but it's more so that like it's actually drawn more attention to the hobby as a whole, where it's not just Games Workshop doing great, because like a lot more things are popping up.
Absolutely. Sorry, I just want to go back there again. I'm just jumping in. I don't want to have people just looking at the pictures all night, so I just want to go back to here now and then. So this is that long-running project. Look at that. There's a look of exasperation on Wade's face there. Like, oh God, will this ever end?
Bloody game. Like, this is such a fantastic game, like to play. Absolutely brilliant war game.
What are we looking at? You might
just
say for people who are watching.
Yeah, War of the Ring. Tolkien's War of the Ring. It was originally made by Fancy Flight Games, and then Ares Games took it over, and they made a second edition, and they tied it up.
I've actually just backed the One Ring RPG game, and I didn't realize that the guy who's written that is actually the designer of this, Francesco. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. He's an Italian gentleman. But so there's a connection there.
Like,
anyway.
It's a fantastic game, but it definitely suffers when you buy it. It definitely suffers from just a block of plastic.
Yeah,
when you're looking at it. Like as a hex encounter war game, they'd be like, it would have been great if they brought this out with hex encounters. You know what I mean? As a game, it'd be fantastic. But I started painting it essentially to improve the gameplay, so you can see the difference of the units.
I think a few more. Yeah.
So that was like 2 years ago.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, that was about
You've done a great job there, Wayne.
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, what was interesting is I ran into a problem with this game, which is why I stopped painting it, because they make it out of, the minis are very, very soft plastic, and I used a spray undercoat like you normally do at the time, and the problem was that the solvent in the spray undercoat essentially starts to melt the plastic
Oh no.
Oh
at a
no.
very, very slow level. So the minis now, some of them still are quite tacky, and that's after about 3 or 4 varnishes.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So now after about like 2 years and about like 10 coats of varnish, now they're fine. But I found out subsequently that if you undercoat them with standard paints, non-aerosol cans, and you don't have the solvent in them, and then they paint it fine. But that was kind of disheartening because I'd put like so much time into painting 40 of them, and you put them aside, and then you come back to it like 3 weeks later, and then he was still tacky. But anyway,
They're probably hollow on the inside at this stage now. It's just the paint on top.
Yeah.
I'll probably open it up, and it'll be just like congealed plastic in the box
Oh.
or something now.
Ooh.
Like a melted rainbow in the box.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here? This is Doom,
Yeah,
isn't it?
This is a Doom board game. Yeah, I had this up on eBay to sell, and I got my new airbrush and compressor, and I was like, oh, here, I want to try it out. So I took that off eBay, and I took the models down, and I painted all those models in like 2 to 3 hours with the airbrush. And I think
Wow.
it's like 3 colors, like a dark brown, and then an airbrush with a lighter brown over it. Then I airbrushed some of the metal parts copper, and then that Magic Army painter strong tone over the whole lot. and then I did dab some red ink into some of the mouths, and that was it. But yeah, literally 2 to 3 hours of the airbrush. So.
But like you still get I mean, it looks great. Like, but this is a fairly kind of a simple enough technique then for people to kind of take on board, is it? Really cool.
It would be, but I suppose you need the airbrush. But it's no reason why it couldn't have been done with spray cans.
Very nice. So I think we're back to Andy, I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah, these are my knights that's crushing Ross's Mongols. No.
We don't talk about that one.
Yeah, again, it's the use of banners sort of. This was again just spray them white using a very simple the GW contrast white, which is like a gray in suspension, and you get away with loads of very quick. And again, the
white horses look amazing.
Yeah, the horses were done with inks. So again, white undercoat with using very strong ink, so you can get away with quite a lot. So this is bolt action, yeah, a couple of British parrots.
Very nice.
So the fun thing about these is that you kind of can use the historical sources and then sort of just add to them as well. So it's but here I've used oils. So not only using acrylics, but then using oil paints to tone down the size of the vehicle to give more sort of contrast. So it gives it more volume. Otherwise, sometimes you can paint something and it just looks flat. And the reason is because you haven't sort of thought about the contrast in even in a very small model, you almost have to kind of exaggerate it quite significantly to get a good.
Do any of you guys do like custom builds? I see this stuff on like Games Workshop of these people setting up these dioramas and they've chopped an arm off. Do any of you do that? Do any of you venture down that kind of way? No.
Do you mean conversions?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I've got quite a few conversions.
Yeah, is that fun, or is it a headache? Is it a bit of a skill to master in terms of how I have to see how this is going to fit? And
there's various ways to approach it. You can do what's called kit bashing, where it's just getting like 2 plastic kits and seeing if they're compatible in the components. Like Space Marines, for example, in Games Workshop, a lot of those models you can buy like a tactical squad and an assault squad, and you can just cross over the heads and the weapons. So that's one way to do it. The other way is to go full in and go, okay, I want to get something completely out of the field and get, like, say, a different manufacturer's kit and cobble it on. I'm going to get some green stuff, which is like modeling putty. I'm going to sculpt some different parts into make them connect properly. So there's various ways to do it, but yeah, it's something I dabble with now and again.
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah, no, I see these amazing kind of direct. What's the name of that a competition that they have over Golden Demon? Is that the one for Games Workshop?
Yeah.
The big one. This is definitely bolt action again, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they're Australians. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great wee game.
Yeah, and you know the bolt action minis anywhere because they're a heroic scale with the larger heads and the larger arms.
Yeah, a lot of people going up with the heads. The heads are like, what's going on with the heads? I actually think it's kind of cool.
That's cool.
There's the Battle Fleet stuff again. We might just
that scheme, Andy, is absolutely gorgeous. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, very nice.
How is Andy? How are your Tau coming along? Just before we move on.
Still haven't come up with a scheme I like, so they keep going back into the into the methylated spirits, unfortunately. So
there's only so many times you can do that before they turn to mush.
So
I found you don't do that with resin at all.
No.
So it was not a bad idea.
What is this crack with regard storage, guys? I mean, if you've got 200, 300 minis or all this, I see various people sighing, going,
and lots of boxes.
Well, I built a shed, to be honest. I actually built a shed at my house for it. So
is that yours, Jake?
This is my one, but actually, it was yours, Ross, at one point.
Oh.
So this is one that I actually bought off Ross ages ago, and he was a completely different color, and his arms were really different. He was green, and he had a bone kind of shell on him. And so I attempted to put him in, as Andy was saying, white spirits or whatever you want to use, and try to strip the paint off him. But the army painter sprays are incredibly tough to get off, and I could only get the one color off, so they were pretty much green underneath all this. And so I had to just spray over it and just paint over it, and maybe try and snap the arms off and try to reposition them slightly. And I kind of was able to, but I think it turned out all right.
Yeah, that's great.
I still have a lot of termagants that I've yet to do from you.
Was it 90 of them I had? I think you bought.
I bought about half of them, so I've got 50 of them to still do. And the same as that, they're still all green and bone color.
I do like your base sleeve done on that model there, Jake. That looks really nice.
I think that's just slate. Yeah, I found some slate out the back and just sprayed over it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
and cool. Dirt and the flock for the grass.
Very good. Back to O'Keefe.
Oh yeah, the Black Sun Fortress game.
I love the book. It's great.
The Purifier.
Really nice.
Purifying the galaxy by smiting aliens over the head with
yeah. Really nice. Is that a fairly new game, the Black?
I'd say about 2 years. It's
about that, yeah.
Yeah, 2-3 years.
Is it like a skirmish game? Is it?
It's like a dungeon crawler, more or less.
Yeah,
it's out of production now as well. They stopped making it. There's a new one coming out.
There's a new one now, The Cursed City.
Okay, yeah, it looks quite nice.
But,
so this is over to
that's me again. Yeah,
it's Imperial Assault, I believe.
Assault, that's the one. That's what kind of got me back into painting. So I hadn't painted in a long time, years, and I say about 5, maybe it's longer. Imperial Assault came out 6-7 years ago now, but yeah, just really, really good campaign game, and it's also a skirmish game. But what I liked with it is that there wasn't a huge amount of minis in the box, so.
The first box, and then as you got the expansion after
yeah, there is a big box of unpainted minis up there for sure.
You do, don't you? You have a wee display case in the house. I remember. That's
it, and those ones are up there. And again, it is more about kind of getting immersed into the board game itself.
Yeah,
you've got the color spot on there, Wayne. Looking at that, it's like, that's fantastic.
Chewy in particular is really nice, actually.
And again, that was me being bloody obsessive again. I was pausing the screen and kind of go, okay, well, he has black on his shoulders and he has kind of black on his head and nonsense. And no one else would even.
No. Very, very nice.
I probably could have got a squad of stormtroopers done at that time.
Oh, look at them.
There's more of my. These are for the Spire Tyrants from Warcry again. Same thing as the big cat. And they're closest. They're chaos, but they're their own kind of separate. They're separate from the normal chaos guys. So these are kind of what's their deal? They're like the elite kind of guys. There's loads of them. There's 3. I think there's 9 in the unit total, but they're just the 3 kind of big beefy guys that I kind of picked out. So they're kind of big hard hitters, and then you have like the gore on the Minotaur guy there.
And in terms of painting these things, guys, I think we're gonna maybe. I know there's some photos if we get to it of like some workspace and stuff. Do you guys use like magnifying lenses, like in terms of like how do you put your piece? Is it like just holding it in your finger? Do you have some sort of way of
No, I
putting
don't.
it?
I need to. I found it, and the last time I was painting, actually, painting some of the aliens, I found it. I couldn't focus, and I was trying to paint the eye, and I just couldn't focus on it. So I actually went and got an eye test, and and the optician said, "Oh no, your eyes are fine. You're just getting old." I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
So I have to get one of those. I think jewelers magnifying glasses.
There's loads of things that you can get to help you with that, but usually just hold them in your hand works fine. Or getting an old paint pot and blue tacking it to the top of it, just to have something to hold on to. You can buy all special kinds of holders and things like that, but you can usually just paint them fine.
I do recommend the Games Workshop one. It's one of the few products that isn't miniature related that they do that is absolutely fantastic. I'm not sure about the new one because I think they've replaced the one that I have. I think it's the previous model.
I think they released a different color version of it.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
There's a red one now. So
It's I think
yeah.
I don't know if you
Oh,
can see
that's the one there,
yeah. It's absolutely great little tool.
Oh yeah, you see it. Yeah, you see it there better against your body there. And
yeah. So it's basically a handle, and it means you can actually control it. And
we got a good grip. Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Control it
what's that called, or what is it? Just
it's just a paint handle.
paint handle. Yeah. The cheap version is that, which is a hook,
a block of
hook.
Yeah.
So there's always a cheap version. Whatever there's the expensive version, and then there's the cheap version. So it really depends on where you are in the hobby as to what you want to do and use.
The Games Workshop one, it's not that expensive. It's about I think it's like €5. I think it is.
It's about 8, I think.
Oh, 8. Oh,
yeah. Plus back now and plus duty and God knows what else.
Yeah.
The one I'd recommend. Yeah. That's the young lad. Yeah.
And there he is with his game over.
Yeah. So I had to find some old minis, otherwise he was going to start painting over my Blackstone Fortress. And
don't do that. Is that Robotech?
I don't know what it is. I think it's BattleTech. Old
BattleTech.
Sorry,
BattleTech.
Yeah. They use
collectible mini. Yeah.
But
very nice.
Yeah,
and there you go with the paint handle.
Yeah. Like,
just whatever you can find. That's nice enough to hold.
That's it, and it does make a difference. Like particularly, obviously, for he's quite small, but in any way you can kind of lock your two hands together. Then at least when your model is shaking or your hand is shaking, they're shaking in unison together. So it just keeps everything stable. But one of the paint handles I'd recommend would be from Red Grass Games, because they have one where you can hold it, but the top rotates, so you can use your thumb to rotate the mini. So again, when you're kind of your hands are locked together in a way, and painting, you're trying to do something fine, you can actually then use your thumb to rotate the mini around, and it's quite good. But yeah, he's the young lad James kind of is getting into the painting now as well, and
he didn't have a choice.
Oh, when you're working from home, anything that can distract him for an hour or two.
Absolutely.
So
that's great. So that kind of brings me to just a question like, okay, what are the kind of things that how would you sell this to a newcomer as a hobby? Like, what is it that is it it's relaxing, it's the joy of, I think you've kind of touched on a lot of this already in terms of it's the finished product, it's losing yourself in creating an aspect of history, it's like if there was a new person coming in here, what's the sales pitch to them in terms of what's the best company, what's the type game? It's kind of a very broad question. Like, how would you sell this to new people? Let's go down to maybe Andy.
I think it's one of those things that you start very simply. It's probably going to say, I know, Games Workshop or something like that, who give you a starter kit with everything in it. So you've got your brush, your paints, and your figures and stuff like that. And then if you they have some that are more historical, some are the fantasy, and some space. I think it's a really good way of just sort of getting engaged with the hobby. After that, there are
There is kind of starter sets and things available. Is there any
Yeah.
particular one you could maybe point people at, or games? I mean, there's several different ones. Is there?
Yeah, I think there's ones for their fantasy range and there's one for their space marines range and stuff like that. But what you get is everything in one kit, and that you're off, often going. Other companies tend to sell you the figures and the paint separately, and so on and so forth. So I think Games Workshop is clever in the sense that they've made it very accessible for people. After that, it's really about pursuing your own sort of kind of interest in whatever you want from the point of view of historical or fantasy or sort of science fiction and stuff.
And there is a kind of a big community of war gaming, isn't there? Isn't it? Like it's easy enough for people if they're coming in to kind of find clubs around the country, and
particularly Warhammer and stuff like that. Yeah, I know any of the sort of war Games Workshop type games and stuff like that.
And in terms of like the historical stuff, is there any particular groups on like Facebook or sites that people can be directed at or kind of point at? So I suppose there's general social media. There's probably a group for it somewhere.
YouTube, isn't it?
YouTube.
Yeah. Get everything.
And that speaks. I obviously we have a Discord thing for the channel. And I saw someone mention Marco for Sony, who's an amazing painter and was actually living in Sligo for a period. Is there any other kind of YouTube things maybe? Does anyone, I'm not sure if everyone, would you have one each maybe, or someone you could point at and go, this is a really good YouTube series or a really good miniature painter people should check out? Throwing you in the spot, everyone's scratching their head there.
Yeah, no, there's so many. I mean, there's literally every shape, depending on where you are in the hobby and stuff, there's someone out there sort of doing YouTube and stuff like that. There's a lot on Patreon as well, where you sort of, it's for where you really want to step up your painting and stuff. But
there's one that I've started watching recently, upcoming. I think he's been doing it for about a year now. Scruffy Crow. He does a good YouTube channel. I'd recommend his channel. He we mainly focus on fantasy, but he does the odd like sci-fi thing here and there. Not so much the tutorials, but more just watching him paint sped up and how he tackles problems and him creating new things. It's just nice to watch.
Jake, is there anyone that you can think of? Even like, there's another thing. Is there any books that maybe people have picked up or have helped along the way?
I'd say with that, like watching videos is actually, I'd say, is a lot better than reading in the book, because you can actually see how the people are doing it and things like that. But a really great person or group or couple that do it is a guy called Jimmy the Brush on Twitch. Twitch TV. He streams. He streams nearly every day, or nearly every day anyway. And it's him and his wife painting together, and they have a much more kind of I wouldn't say messy, but it's a much more kind of loose painting style. And they go through how they paint it, and they're always painting something new nearly every day. And they're great. They're on Twitch, and Jimmy the Brush and his wife.
And Wayne O'Keefe, anyone there coming to mind?
Yeah, there's probably two that stand out. One is a guy on YouTube called Goobertown Hobbies.
Yeah, he's great.
It's like if you know Bob Ross from the he's the Bob Ross of miniature painting, and it's just wholesome kind of content, and a very good one even if you have young kids, very young kids, and like you can sit down in front of a video and the content is going to be accessible and interesting, and he's really good. And then, but probably my favorite at the moment is a guy who's I think he's doing about a year of videos, John Nunes, called Ninjon, NIN.
Yes, yeah.
And
a few of his.
He's funny, he's accessible, he's very clear with his process, but again, he's a good video maker. He can edit them very well, so it's enjoyable to watch, which is
nice to watch. So also in Sligo, I know at the end of the video I'm going to have a list of retailers. Andy, you're going to be in there too, in terms of getting equipment and models and stuff. Is there any like I've mentioned all the kind of shops in the country? Is there outside of the country? Is there any particular company that people should? Again, I think we mentioned something earlier on, like of your favorite lines and stuff. So maybe, I suppose people can contact those. Is there anyone else, like mail order companies that are worthwhile for going for paints or models?
Yeah, unfortunately, a good few of them that I used to get were from the UK.
Yeah,
So,
Brexit is
Yeah.
really bad at the moment for
that
that.
makes
Yeah.
it kind of
Yeah.
up a lot of those things. But
Saying that, Games Workshop have actually put out a statement saying that they will cover any of the additional charges. So buying from them is as normal as it ever was. So,
but I only today I was looking. I just did a quick Google for Vallejo Paints Ireland, and Prince August came up. You know, so they're still going strong. I think, like I said, are they Wexford or Waterford? Or
They're
Cork.
Cork.
Cork,
Yeah.
is it?
Macroom.
Cork.
It's worth going down. It's worth going down if you get a chance.
Yeah.
Especially if you're young kids. It's great. They literally wander around the factory and stuff like that. It's a great tour.
I have a friend who he would have done a little bit of board gaming, but out of blue, he sent me messages one day because they were down in Cork. He says, "Look where we found!" And huge room with this huge diorama, Napoleonic figures, Waterloo, whatever. And it was like, "Oh yeah!" And I was like, "Oh my god, nostalgia trip back to the days of melting metal and putting them on."
Not killing yourself when you're dead.
That was a
Yeah. Oh God, lead. Army Painter is quite good, I find.
Yeah.
Or get these because they're based, I think, in the Netherlands or Italy. I think they're based in Midland Europe.
Yes.
Yeah, they're widely available here in Ireland.
Yeah,
as
so
well.
you no problem getting them. And I think you stock them as well, don't you, Andy?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Cool. So we are just coming up on kind of time on this. I'm trying to keep this to kind of an hour. There might be a bit over, but I just want to say thank you to everyone for giving up an hour of your evening here this evening, and I hope you enjoyed it. For anyone who's watching, this is one of a series of little videos we're just doing for the Sligo Gaming Society. There's 2 other ones up at the moment, and there'll be a few more going forward, basically touching on different topics to do with gaming and stuff. And it's just kind of, I suppose it's more just a little reach out to people while we are in the middle of the madness that's going on. So it's nice to get people to connect. And so we might be seeing some of the guys here again, maybe, if you're up for it. Thank
Absolutely.
you again.
Sure.
And I suppose in the meantime, to everyone out there, stay safe and stay well. Take care.
Great. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Take
Bye.
care. Take care, guys. Bye bye.